Now, I'm really, really excited to introduce you to our next speaker. Taylor Bradford is in quality assurance for power systems with Cummins, Inc. Now, she is an intern and studies, she's in process to get a bachelor's degree in geophysics from the University of Leeds, where Taylor uses manipulation of specialist software for the processing and interpretation of geophysical data. Now, Taylor is also an advocate for women and LGBTQ+ members in STEM, and is also a proud participant of European Pride, Women Empowerment Network, and the diversity and inclusion teams within Cummins. Taylor, I am so happy to be getting to have this conversation with you today. I know that our audience here, obviously you've got your bio that's up on our website and all that. But I want to talk to you, and see what we can get out of you for a little bit here about these topics, right, of diversity and gender and sexual orientation and how that drives creativity and innovation. Now, could you give us a little bit more detail about yourself and what you do at Cummins?
Yeah, of course. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here today with you all. So yeah, I'm Taylor. I'm 23. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm based in England. So a bit about myself. So I'm going into my final year of university in September. So I study geophysics, which looks at investigating the physics of the Earth. So a little bit about me. So I'm a member of the British Interplanetary Society. I love everything space. I love watching rocket launches, webinars, that sort of thing. And I'm also a very proud member of the Society of Women Engineers, which is the world's largest advocate and catalyst for change for women in engineering and technology. So it's a great place to be. They offer fantastic courses, webinars, and a lot of mentoring opportunities. So 2 personal projects I'm currently working on. I am learning a language and I am taking training to become BSL certified. And I also love reading. So I love reading physics and women empowerment books. So a few things that I'll probably reference today are Marie Porter's Work Like a Woman and Sheryl Sandberg's incredible book, Lean In. So a bit about my job as an intern at Cummins. So I proudly work within the customer quality assurance team in the power systems business unit. So what I do is I manage portions of well-defined and challenging projects simultaneously, actively supporting engine failure investigations, working with customers, that sort of thing. But alongside of this, in my extracurriculars, I am really proud to be a participant of European Pride, the Women Empowerment Network, and the Diversity and Inclusion Group, as well as being a Cummins Powers Women Ambassador. So these groups are fantastic. They've allowed me to get involved in some great opportunities like a Girls in Business project. And I was also very lucky to be on a diversity and inclusion panel amongst representatives from other industries. So yeah, it's a bit about me.
That is so cool and a large amount for our audience to digest. So thank you so much for diving in on those things with us. I want to talk about the topic of today's conversation. For you and in your experience or in your opinion, why do you think it's so important to have a diversity of perspectives and thoughts when it comes to problem solving?
Yeah, so a lot of my job and my degree involve, a lot of problem solving. And I think with every company, there's going to be challenges and problems to work through. I think it's how you collaboratively work to fix those. And diversity helps create paths towards new thinking, new solutions to today's challenges, kind of reducing more of the same way of thinking, which sometimes can be a hurdle. And diversity is becoming increasingly prevalent in leadership culture. And the reason that I mention this is because what once was a leader being at the top of a pyramid of employees, maybe delegating, it's shifted and evolved into a leader being a center of influence. And this style of leadership promotes exploration and people looking at alternative ways to fix problems, becoming more efficient in different ways, like becoming more time effective. And when you're fixing a problem, you identify the core issue and you get everybody involved. So kind of in the way that you reach out to different departments maybe and stakeholders, it should work very similarly with diverse perspectives so that when you're looking everywhere for answers, you obtain different opinions, research, knowledge, and this can only be emphasized by having that diversity behind it so that you obtain a range of perspectives and a broader spectrum of expertise, which is a win-win. And, you know, appointing potential solutions, you know that you've considered different avenues. And when it comes to deciding on what you're going to implement, and when you look at evaluating the effectiveness, you know that you've not only just gained potential solutions from a group of people that all think alike, but rather that you've added new ways of thinking, and it's considering it as a diversity add rather than going down a cultural fit route instead.
I love that you focused on that, because you're right. That's something that we talk about with, with businesses all the time about, yeah, you want to have a company culture and you want it to, to be pervasive. You want it to be something that is infused in the org. But you're right. It is really, really easy to slip into that kind of homogenous mold where when you're looking for people who will support the mission, you kind of go with what you know. And so I think it is really important to highlight that when you're thinking of these things and thinking of increasing the diversity on your various teams, you are looking for a culture add. You're looking for somebody that's going to fill a culture gap that you already have. And maybe it wasn't an issue before, but it's certainly an issue now. So just because you haven't thought about these things previously or you haven't encountered issues where you couldn't get something resolved, it's not to say that those are the only companies that need to think in these terms, right? Everybody should be thinking in these terms.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, from a place of personal, personal questioning or personal, something that pinged in my head while I was listening to you. Have you seen this change in that leadership model that you talked about? Have you seen that happen in practice? Like, has that happened at Cummins or a different place that you have worked or interned?
I think being exposed to different companies, I mean, now with like the internet, you've got so much more access to resources. You can find out more about companies. So it's not necessarily just seeing it in your own company. You might see it in a company that you've followed for years, or for example, one that you might have on LinkedIn. And it's really nice to see that shift and redirecting a focus on something that's going to show so much growth for a company in a very positive way. Companies are wanting new ideas all the time. And I think we're only going to get there by having new ways of thinking and having a real diverse spectrum of opinions and ideas.
Yes, obviously. Yes, loving this. Now, so obviously you are an intern with Cummins. So you're still in that education space. Have you seen either in education or in your work experience, examples of where that diversity in problem solving really makes all the difference? Having somebody that is either fresh eyes to the project or somebody whose point of view has not been represented before. Have you seen this happen?
Yeah, definitely. So I'd say in terms of like education, it's really important. So you have like your lecturers, your professors, and then you have the students, and it's very student lecturer type relationship. So by having things like student ambassadors, for example, that became a really great way to get new voices heard, to get new opinions, because I think it's about also bridging ideas as well between people, finding a way to communicate. So I'd say that was a really great way to see leadership being developed by broadening where they're getting their opinions from, where they're getting their knowledge from. So not kind of just circling around with their own ideas, but really branching out and getting them from the people that it essentially affects, the students.
Oh, loving this. Yes. All right. So let's talk about innovation. Can you tell us and kind of expand a little bit about how you think diversity has really positively impacted innovation?
Yeah, so I mean, people have different life experiences due to their backgrounds, which provide different approaches to their ideas and contributions at work. And I think it's really important to note that small changes can lead to big impacts. So, for example, if a person in leadership feels comfortable enough to state their pronouns, which is a small change, it's okay to state yours. And it's about creating that safe space, which is the much bigger impact. And it's important to never forget the significance of being seen. It drives inspiration. And a personal experience for me, especially being a woman in STEM, is I can be in a meeting with lots of people and there'll just be me and one other female in that meeting. But by watching that one female present, it provides a space for me where I feel inspired and able to do it as well. So I think that's a really important point. And diverse opinions often mean differing from the consensus and the usual. And I really do believe that companies are becoming increasingly encouraging of this. It's when you step away from the norm that you gain that creative thinking. And so when diversity is being embedded into day-to-day behaviours, you start getting different types of conversations, which I think is a really great room for growth. Embracing diversity sparks that change in the workplace, which is what we're striving for. And again, personally, I feel that seeing representation at the top can help make a shift from feeling like an anomaly to instead feeling included, which I guess really ties into inclusion as well. And having a collaborative approach, it enables a company's biggest asset, the employees, to contribute to the vision of the future, which is what a company strives for. I'd like to also point that another really great impact by having diversity is that you get diverse talent, and this really helps to create an intelligent working environment and a stronger customer engagement. So yeah, that's how I think diversity is continuously positively impacting innovation.
I love that answer. And I was remembering something you had said earlier about thinking about people in terms of, their lived experience or their backgrounds that might differ from yours. And the one thing that you said was the source of their education or the source of their knowledge. And I think that's huge, right? Because a lot of times, especially when you get into STEM, especially in the tech space, there are a lot of people who went to school for this. At least in America, it's a 4-year, generally speaking, you're thinking in terms of like a 4-year college program for getting a degree. But then you also have a ton of people that come out of boot camps. You have a lot of people who, especially those looking to transition into the field or pivot from their current industry. So you have a lot of people that are bringing very unique experiences, but the way they acquired that knowledge is also part of a unique experience, right? Did they go someplace where they might have been exposed to like people with really great, like big ideas and people that are going to be like the next big name in, whatever, or they might be the person that did this all on their own, somebody that was so driven to learn the material or learn how to do the job that they wanted to study independently. They wanted to do whatever they could to make this transition. And so I think it's, like you said, it's really important to highlight something like diversity of like background when it comes to the sources of their education, source of their knowledge. Because, they might be coming from a completely different field and be able to look at a problem in a way that nobody else on your current team has been able to. So I love this. All right. So what has your field historically looked like for women and LGBTQIA plus people? I want to know, as somebody who is just starting their career, do you see any of this changing? So tell us about like what historically this looks like.
Yeah, so while I was doing a bit of research for this, I actually found out something quite interesting so women in engineering predates the development of the profession of engineering. So before engineering was recognised as a profession, women with engineering skills often sought recognition as inventors, which I thought was quite cool. In terms of statistics, in 2015, so not that long ago, but a survey in the UK was taken by WISE, and they're a company that calculate gender breakdowns of occupations, and only 14.4% of people working in STEM occupations were women. So, significantly less than half. And I think it's kind of linked to historically qualities and values of a certain group of people is how everyone was measured. An example being that women having children could potentially reduce their value and commitment to a company, which is obviously not true. Gloria Steinem once said, it's not about integrating into a not so good system, it's about transforming it and making it a better one. So with work comes community, and it's important to have that work community that is now mirroring a diverse consumer base that we're seeing that we've always seen, but we're now shifting to where these things are becoming more and more important and to the forefront. And I think more recently we're seeing a shift in mindset, being strength is grounded in emotional openness and not dominance, building and empowering rather than suppressing and stifling. And so how I see this changing, I'd say working on creating a legacy. So working on achieving long-term goals for work culture, flexibility and growth for everyone, not just short-term, singular person, that sort of thing. And evolving leadership. I mean, it's great to see it, especially like online all the time and stuff, that evolving leadership culture, which I will say I see at Cummins, it's great. And promoting learning and encouraging employees to really reach their full potential. I mean, I'm an intern at Cummins, but I'm here speaking today, and it's that sort of thing that is so important to get a new perspective and a fresh, as well. So I study geophysics, but I do an engineering internship. So by having somebody that's not necessarily the same discipline, I've been able to help fix problems from a different way, which is really important. And that leadership embodies the change, and it's engaging people in that change process. So you're bridging across diverse people. So I'd say someone at the beginning of their career, I'm really enjoying exploring my personal why and what I want to do and how I want to do it, and embarking on those opportunities to discover how I can be part of that change that we need to see.
Oh, that's a powerful sentence right there. My ears pricked up when you were talking a little bit, in the beginning of that answer. You talked about, the idea, like from Gloria Steinem, of not just integrating into a broken system, but making it better. And I think that is something that can be very, very relatable, especially for people who have been in the work world for 10, 20 years, because we saw, like the 80s was the beginning of things like the power suit, and women kind of dressed like men to be able to be taken more seriously. And I know that that's kind of a very surface level, example, but it really does highlight, like you had said, that, these things are they're not just individual people, right? A lot of these traditions, I should say, within the workplace are continued on because that's the way it's always been done. And instead of looking at these places and these work settings as something that we can change, people think of it in terms of like, well, that's how we've done it. That's the process. That's the protocol. And so I love that idea that as we do bring more people into the space, and more people that don't fit the traditional mold of, like the straight cisgender white person, like that really does need to change. That representation needs to change, not only, like you said, not only in like kind of the one by one people coming into an organization, but also in terms of their company culture, the leadership, seeing that example and being able to say like, oh yeah, that person is in this role that's however many levels above me. Maybe that's something I should aim for. Maybe that's something that's feasible for me to reach. I think that's lovely. All right, I just want to call out for all of our attendees right now, if y'all have questions and you want me to ask Taylor live, please feel free, throw your question in the chat there. We've got about 10 minutes left before the end of the session, so I'd love to get to any audience questions if y'all have them. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Cummins, and I want to talk about the Pride Ally program that they are building there. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I would be more than happy to. I absolutely love the Pride Ally program at work. And I think the qualities, going back to companies shifting their mindset, I think the qualities of a company that used to allow people to thrive are evolving, and diversity initiatives are one of them. So the Pride Ally program was set up to create a safer space for all by encouraging LGBTQ+ allies across Cummins to demonstrate their support. So it makes it easy for allies to sign up and to engage, and it's a pledge encouraging allies to be leaders and to speak up and to get involved. I think it's a great way to provide increased visible support for employees, and it also comes along with a great video which does a really good job of explaining that being an ally is a way to show support for having a diverse and inclusive workplace, and it's a real step in the right direction. I think as well, like part of the Pride Ally program, so there's now been a development of a Pride Ally wall, which is filled with amazing photos, so like best showing visible support for those at Cummins. And sometimes it's just really nice to go and have a look, and you see all of these incredible allies, and it's just so, you feel yourself like feeling better afterwards. It's really wholesome and supporting, and also encouraging that you're not on your own, and that there's people out there who are allies and true allies that making that pledge. So yeah, it's great program. I love it.
That's wonderful that, that was a group of people that has been actively, recognized and reached out to. Because you're right, there are a lot of people who, if they don't either personally know someone or love someone who exists within, the alphabet mafia, as it were, there are a lot of people that feel like it's kind of not their fight, not their business, not something they should be involved in. But you're right, it's that visible support. It's knowing that even if you are not comfortable disclosing or sharing parts of yourself with people around you, you have a better idea of how many people there are that would be supportive, that would not have, would not have any inclination to treat you any differently based on what you would share with them. And I think it's so wonderful, and it kind of reminds me of things like in 2020, when we saw a lot of the BLM marches. Many of the ones that I went to had unbelievable amounts of white people there. And I was really surprised, but pleasantly surprised to see this many people. Cause I don't know about you, I live in Ohio. We are the middle of white bread America. It is Michigan militia is 20 minutes from my house. There's a lot going on here, but it was really, really amazing to see that. And so I can assume that it would have, kind of the same feeling for people who need that support, who have not seen that kind of support from their, from their colleagues. So I think that's absolutely wonderful. All right, we have about 7 minutes left. I want to make sure that we leave a little bit of time at the end here. But one of the things that I had noticed when I was researching you is your love of space. So I know this is a little bit off topic, but I wanted to talk a little bit more about your interests and your efforts in that area, because it seems like quite an interesting thing to pair with your background in geospatial. So can you tell us kind of how those things relate for you?
Yeah, so part of my geophysics degree, so I do a lot of coding, programming. I do a lot of modules associated with satellites, so INSAR, how we code for satellites, how we find things using satellites, that sort of thing. And although I must admit my love for space come before geophysics, I love NASA. It's right at the top of my bucket list. I really want to see a rocket launch in person, that sort of thing. But I think they make a great connection, because I feel like I have although I've loved space for a long time, I think I've really learned kind of the maths behind it. And my degree is brilliant. It's allowed me to do modules in physics. It's allowed me to do modules in maths, and kind of having a newfound appreciation for the complexities that go behind a rocket launch or a satellite, how a satellite stays in orbit, that sort of thing. And yeah, I love it. I love going to all sorts of talks. I have a lot of connections on LinkedIn to do with space, and it's just a great place to have something new and exciting, as well as, your job and your other things that you might do. I love having a variety of extracurriculars. I love getting involved in everything. And so on the back of that, I am doing a coding qualification associated with programming, so that in the future I can do my own thing in that sort of respect. So yeah, I could sit and talk about space all day. I love it.
Excellent. So cool. I highly recommend you check out a rocket launch in person. I got to see, oh man, lived on the East Coast a couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, and was able to see a rocket launch when SpaceX was launching. And they were sending something to the space station. Oh, they were sending kids science projects were going to go into space. It was a 4th grade class or something. It was the coolest thing. And I was even I think we were 5 miles upriver from the site, but you could watch the entire thing. It was it was truly one of the like, I told a bunch of my friends we were going to go, and they were like, what are you going to, you're not going to be there though? I was like, no, you don't understand. We get to like watch it. It's going to go up. And
yeah.
it was, I mean, that it was one of those things that was like the first time that I felt any personal or emotional attachment to like some part of like the space program, apart from, you know, watching things like the Challenger explosion, which happened the year I was born, or, you know, watching footage of past launches that were so like history making for the space program. So I fully recommend it. I absolutely think you should do this.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's something that I really want to do, and I mean, I could sit and watch. So NASA have a live stream that's on YouTube 24 hours a day. And sometimes if I've got a bit of spare time, I'll just sit and watch it in the background. You get to hear from all sorts of people. It's incredible. And they have, if they've got any big events on, you can just watch it on the YouTube channel as well. It's really great. I remember watching one where they were sending some women who had spent, I think it was like a record time in space, in the International Space Station, and they were sending them home, and I felt so empowered seeing these women coming back from space, and I was like, yeah. And it was interesting to watch like their interviews, and as well kind of like how they get back to normal life after spending so much time away. But yeah, incredible.
Very cool. All right. In the last couple minutes we have, I want to ask you a question. Apologies, we didn't prep you for this, but I want to ask you, as somebody who is just embarking on their professional journey, what are you most excited for when you're a graduate and you've got that first like kind of big kid job? Is there something that you're really excited for about that process, or really like eager, can't wait for it to happen?
I think being able to make long-term commitments to a position, not necessarily the position itself, but what can come with that position. And what I mean by that is like, so as an intern at Cummins, I get to be part of all these incredible groups, which when I go back to university, I will leave. And so when I've took up on opportunities, there's never anything long-term that I can do, like become a co-chair or of a group, or, you know, long-term projects. So although I am excited to be a grad, I'm excited to embark in a new company, I think as long as I find another company where my values align and their leadership culture is really promising and promoting of new leaders and new ways of thinking, I think for me, that's what I'm most looking forward to, being able to do extracurriculars that make positive changes in the workplace, and, you know, not just short term, long term as well. I think that really makes me excited to graduate. And yeah, there's so much to do and so little time. I love being able to take up every opportunity. So yeah,
just absolutely wonderful. Taylor, I just want to say a big thank you to you for taking time out of your day to be here with us. You know, there's always the prep time that goes on behind the scenes that, you know, none of our audience gets to see, but it is incredibly evident that not only are you very passionate about this, but you came prepared, girl. Like, this is fabulous. Like, absolutely love all of this.
I've absolutely loved it. Yeah, I did do a lot of research, but in finding that research, gets you all empowered and it gets you excited for this change that, you know, is happening. And yeah, I've really enjoyed being here today. It's a real tick off the bucket list as well. So I've really enjoyed it myself.
Happy to have done that for you, and hopefully we'll get a chance to reconnect later, and maybe get to host one of these again. I would love to do that. So thank you, Taylor, so much.
Thank you. Bye.